Little did Ewan Montagu know, this day in 1943 would set in motion one of the boldest acts of statecraft and subterfuge of the Second World War. By spring 1943, the Allies were planning Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. The stakes were immense: open a Mediterranean route, knock Italy out of the war, and force Germany to divert forces. But the Axis bristled with defenses. High Command believed the Allies might strike Greece or Sardinia. The question for British intelligence was simple and terrifying: how to make sure the enemy looked in the wrong place. Enter a small team in London's Naval Intelligence Division, led by Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montagu and Flight Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley. They proposed a deception so audacious it read like fiction: manufacture a dead officer, give him a convincing life story, and plant documents on his body that would steer German attention away from Sicily. They scoured morgues for a suitable corpse, prepared a false identity, Major William Martin, Royal Marines, and forged a dossier that included love letters, a photograph, a letter from a fake superior, and sensitive-sounding plans suggesting the Allies eyed Greece and Sardinia. Every mundane detail mattered: receipts, a ticket stub, a bank book. The more ordinary the trappings, the more believable the lie. In late April 1943, the body, dressed in full uniform and carrying its false papers, was placed aboard a Royal Navy submarine and released near the Spanish coast at Huelva. He washed ashore in the dawn light. The Spanish authorities recovered him. Under the brittle politics of Franco's Spain, the body and the documents were inevitably shared with German intelligence. What followed unfolded like a thriller. German intelligence officers examined the papers and accepted Major Martin as genuine. Hitler's commanders altered their deployments. German forces that might have strengthened Sicily were redirected toward Greece and the Balkans. By the time the Allied landings began in July, Axis defenses were thinner than they might otherwise have been. For those behind the plan, the risks had been profound. Exposure could mean diplomatic scandal, the execution of spies, or the wasting of men in a bloody invasion. But secrecy held. The operation, codenamed Mincemeat, worked in the simplest, most chilling way. Authorities that found the corpse read the documents and believed what they wanted or were led to believe. There are human shadows to the story. The name on the papers was a fabrication, but the corpse was real. For decades, the identity of the dead man was a secret kept by the state. Only later research identified him as Glyndwr Michael, a destitute Welshman who had died years earlier. Ewan would publish The Man Who Never Was in 1953, telling the public the outline of the ruse and, crucially, its ethical dimensions, a deception that conscripted the dead into service. Historians still debate the scale of Mincemeat's impact. Declassified German records and Allied analyses suggest it was a significant factor among many in the success of Husky. No single trick won the campaign, but the diversion of Axis attention mattered. The operation also exposed a darker truth of total war. Intelligence planners measured human lives in calculus that could include anonymity and death. Operation Mincemeat survives as both a masterpiece of deception and a moral puzzle. It tells us how fragile truth can be in war, how documents, papers, photographs, a counterfeit letter can bend the decisions of generals and change the fate of thousands. For Ewan Montagu and his colleagues, the success of 1943 was a vindication of craft. For the man whose body lay on that Spanish shore, it made him perversely immortal, the man who never was, who helped tilt a theater of war and rewrote, for a time, where the guns would fall.